Hello there. Welcome in Wednesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on air, online, or through the app, or if you're watching the show. Hi. On our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at XTRA Sports 1300. If you would like to share your opinion on things, feel free to do so, 719-247-1313. I usually say perhaps you'll have a thought about the three stories that are driving the show. I think today you definitely will, because we have breaking news within the three stories that are driving the show. So here we go. All right, we start with apparently me needing to eat my words. Here's story number one.
Nix with a play fake. Now rolls to his right. Bo looks in the end zone, throws a ball behind the intended receiver, bounced up into the air, bounced again, and then caught by Vele. Touchdown, Denver.
Broncos radio on the call. The Broncos have just traded Vele to the New Orleans Saints. In return, they will get a 2026 fourth-round pick and a 2027 seventh-round pick. If you tuned in earlier in the show, I was making the case that why would the Broncos trade Vele? But this is inherently the issue when you have just a bunch of dudes. They all have different skill sets, but essentially from a talent perspective, there's not a lot separating any of these guys in the Broncos wide receiving corps. So yeah, maybe you could spin one off. And that is what has happened. I am surprised that it's Vele. Because I thought that his inclusion with kind of the ones as not playing on Saturday was a sign that Vele's spot on the roster was safe, that Sean Payton thought highly of him. Apparently they were just making sure he didn't get hurt so they could get the haul. I mean, I don't know if you're watching the Dallas Cowboys documentary, but Herschel Walker type deal, a 2026 fourth round pick and a 2027 seventh round pick. Now, all jokes aside, that's pretty good ROI on wasn't Vele undrafted? But this is the life in the Broncos wide receiver room. You're all interchangeable. You're all expendable. And perhaps they did have one too many players. If I had to, I don't know if it's this simple, but I think what Pat Bryant has shown might be part of the reasoning for doing this, because a lot of Vele, what role I thought he would have specifically on third down, perhaps the Broncos have seen something with Pat Bryant, as you and I have, that maybe went, okay, yeah, we're ready to trust the rookie in that spot. But this is the unpredictable nature of the way Sean Payton builds his skill groups. You're not in love with any of these guys. None of these guys could be a number one or even a number two for most NFL teams, but they're just there because of this one thing that they do that Sean Payton wants to have at his disposal should he feel like he needs it. And what Vele brought to the table, I think Pat Bryant kind of brings to the table. And so, hey, you could get a fourth and a seventh round pick. It does speak to my earlier point of let's not make the Denver Broncos wide receiving core out to be more than what it is. They have some options there. They have some guys with certain skill sets that Sean Payton can utilize. But that's what arguably the second best receiver in the Broncos room is worth on the open market. A fourth rounder and a seventh rounder. So clearly there was one too many. I am surprised it was Devon Vele. But at the same time, how many of these other wide receivers have even the track record of Devon Vele? We didn't see Troy Franklin last year. We saw him catch that ball against the Buffalo Bills. Hadn't heard from him all the way up until then and didn't hear from him after in that game. Marvin Mims, they're not going to, I don't think they're going to want to get rid of. Cortland Sutton, they're not going to. They just signed him to an extension. So you start to, go through all these wide receivers, and I'm still surprised it's Vele because from a talent perspective, I think he's proven to be better than Troy Franklin. But they must really like Pat Bryant because Vele was going to be a third down guy. So that there's the consequence of it. Maybe buy a little bit more Pat Bryant stock. But Devon Vele traded by the Broncos for a fourth and a seventh round pick. Now to story number 2, another Colorado team making a move today.
Here's Eichel at the blue line. Cross-size pass for Olofsson. Olofsson with a drive, and he scores.
WFAN on the call. Victor Olofsson is on his way to the Colorado Avalanche. This is a free agent signing, 1 year, $1.575 million for the oft-injured part of it, and probably why Olofsson was available at this juncture of NHL free agency. But the guy had 29 points last year in limited duty. And the way I look at Victor Olofsson is everything that Yoel Kiviranta is not, Olofsson is. And I think they're going to be on the same line together. Yoel Kiviranta, despite his 16 goals last year, that's not who he is. Chris McFarland called him a responsible player, meaning defensive player, and mentioned 5-on-5 as where maybe Kiviranta can help them out offensively, meaning not power play. Something that is obviously of great importance to the Colorado Avalanche, given their foibles last year in the playoffs with the man advantage. And you bring in Olofsson, and he is a guy that you can expect to score goals, and he's a guy that you can utilize on the power play. Is a great wrist shot. So this is the Avalanche again saying, hey, we have the money after they traded Charlie Coyle and Miles Wood. I still think that maybe they were hoping for something bigger or were working on something bigger that fell through. But what it has turned out to be since they opened up that money was just, we got money in case an opportunity arises. And this opportunity arose. 15 goals, 14 assists last year. That's pretty good production to add to your bottom six. And the Avalanche, much like the Denver Nuggets, have sent a clear signal this offseason. Depth was important to both of them, and they have both gone about it the exact same way. Oh, maybe this young player can play here. Nope. Well, how about this? Nope. No young players, all veterans. And when Logan O'Connor is healthy around the midway point of the year, you're not going to have a single young guy in the Avs lineup. You will while O'Connor's out, I think. Who knows? We still got a couple of, little over a month until the NHL season begins. Avs have some money to play with, and they also have the LTIR if they choose to use it for Logan O'Connor. They may not be done. But this is like so many of the moves this offseason for Chris McFarland. This is a good, not, mind-blowing acquisition, but it's a good, solid hockey move to further fortify the depth of this, fortify the depth of the Colorado Avalanche just a little bit more. Injuries are a question. It's definitely a bottom six forward, so no, Jonathan Drouin conversation here. This is a depth winger, but again, 29 points in limited action last year. It's good production to have, especially if he's going to be on a line with Yoel Kiviranta, who we cannot reasonably expect to replicate his offensive numbers from a year ago. And story number 3, we'll just keep it going with the theme of local teams making deals. As the Colorado Springs Switchbacks have added forward Kyle Vele to their team. Vele played for San Diego Loyal not that long ago against the Switchbacks. Most recently, he's been in Scotland. But what he is a goal scorer. A true number 9, a guy to lead the line, something that the Switchbacks did not have on their roster once Justin Dillon left the team. And certainly Vele comes in with more production in his past than Justin Dillon had. It gets them closer to what they had with Ronaldo Damas than they were at any point this season. But the Switchbacks lineup needed this. And Stephen Hogan has been hinting for weeks about a move like this. Because not only does this team need that true number 9, a guy that they can look to when they need a goal to get a goal. And that issue that has plagued the Switchbacks for much of the season did pop up a little bit on Saturday, didn't it? Now you get a guy who can bully people in the box, around the scoring area, get goals for you, and then it will help everyone else. You like what you've seen from Jonas Fjellberg and Quincy Huerman and some of these players that have popped up in recent weeks. That's great. This move is aimed to help them even more, free them up even more. They can play it into him, run off of him. There's a lot of things you could do. It was a necessary piece to the puzzle for this Switchbacks team once Justin Dillon left the club. And in my opinion, even if Dillon was still with the Switchbacks, I wouldn't have been shocked if they make a move like this. But this team needs it, and now it's you watch this Saturday or listen this Saturday on Extra Sports 1300, and everyone's going to kind of be in their natural position. Kind of sets the whole lineup up better for James Chambers as this team tries to put what happened against Orange County last weekend behind them and keep with overall what's been terrific play over the last month. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts. Vele, traded by the Denver Broncos. Victor Olofsson, signed by the Avalanche. And Kyle Vele, now a member of the Colorado Springs Switchbacks. We'll continue on with Drive Time Sports right after this. Broncos trade Devon Vele to the New Orleans Saints in exchange for a 4th-round pick next year and a 7th-round pick the year after, which should tell you the market value of this Broncos wide receiving core. But it's the wide receiving core that Sean Payton wanted. And there are other organizations that are not as aligned with what the very top of the organization wants, all the way down to the field staff. The Broncos are. Sean Payton talked about it a few weeks ago. The 20-some-odd teams that are a mess at the top of their organization, this one is not, because they rubber stamp everything that Sean Payton tells them to do. Sean Payton wants to maybe sacrifice talent for specific skill sets that he can employ in a variety of ways. And I thought Devon Vele fit that. But with Pat Bryant and the way he's performed over the first 2 preseason games, I think there are dots here to be connected. Because I think Vele's role with this Broncos team was going to be mostly being in there on 3rd down. And I think Pat Bryant has shown a skill set that they would want him on the field on 3rd down. And who knows? You know, the Broncos have been in the mode this offseason in this training camp of doing right by their players. Maybe this also, I know Devon Vele's not, he's not Nick Bonito. He's not Cortland Sutton. He's not Garrett Bowles or Bo Nix. Like, he doesn't wield the power. But, hey, could he have kind of gone to the Broncos and been like, what's my role here? I don't know. We'll hear Sean Payton at some point discuss it. But I'm not surprised at the value they got back, because I don't think that any of these wide receivers for the Broncos are worth a lot. But I am surprised at, if one was going to go, that it was going to be Vele. So Cortland Sutton, we'll use our vernacular and we'll call him wide receiver 1. Sean Payton doesn't do these things, but we will. Cortland Sutton, wide receiver number 1. I think Marvin Mims, even though he is kind of a bit player, he has a very specific role. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. I think it's certainly more of a question now. Mims has his role. We know what Cortland Sutton is. Who's the next guy? Because that was Devon Vele. So, is it Troy Franklin? Or is it Pat Bryant? And if Pat Bryant is trusted more by Sean Payton on 3rd down, which I think he should be, that would make him wide receiver 3. But I would also at the same time caution, because we've done this before with rookies and Sean Payton. It could just be as simple as, well, Cortland Sutton, he can be our 3rd down guy, and then we hardly see Pat Bryant, and then Sean Payton talks about how they're trying to get him touches. But the other part of this is, don't forget, Evan Ingram is with the Denver Broncos. Don't forget that this team wants to run the football more. So while the move to trade Devon Vele might be a bit surprising, understand that the Broncos wide receiving core is not going that deep. because there are other pieces to this team that have been added that Sean Payton is much more worried about than who his third or fourth best wide receiver is. Ingram, the run game, and then it's, Mims, Sutton, and then the next guy. So surprising that it's Vele, but this does not change the Denver Broncos one way or another. Perhaps it makes Saturday against the Saints a little bit more interesting. Because now how are those reps going to get split? And now are we going to get Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims back into the mix? It's not that he was utilizing Devon Vele that much during the preseason. But now there's this additional aspect to it where, okay, well, it's not Vele. Like Vele was the bird in the hand, right? And you were trying to figure out what the two in the bush were, Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant. So I think there's even more now for this final preseason game to find out with Troy Franklin, and you look at that competition, if you will, in a different light now that Devon Vele's out of the mix. Sure, we'll hear Sean Payton's thoughts on Devon Vele, the trading of Vele soon. Take your thoughts in the meantime. 719-247-1313. Broncos taking on the Saints this weekend in their final preseason game. And now you were already watching Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin. Now you will even more so. 719-247-1313. Back after this. I knew you were waiting in the weeds, Brett. You're just waiting for the right moment to pounce. Reacting to the news that Vele has been traded by the Denver Broncos to the New Orleans Saints for a 4th-round pick next year and a 7th-round pick the year after, Brett says, I'm not surprised they traded him. They'd rather trade him and get something than cut him. I'm surprised they got so much for him. He's beginning to sound like your Michael Porter Jr. on the Broncos from 5 years ago, living in your basement. Is he? So to bring you in on the inside joke there are some athletes that I have been accused of being a little bit over exuberant with a little effusive with my praise. And I have defended players in the past, Michael Porter being one of them. I think Vele, if we were making a Nuggets comparison, it would be more like, oh, I'm surprised that the Nuggets traded Julian Strawther. Because we are talking about the Broncos wide receiving core, which I just said an hour ago. That is part of the reason why I don't think as highly of the Denver Broncos this season as you do. Is because I don't think Bo Nix has the weapons to elevate him, and he is a quarterback that needs the weapons around him to elevate him. But of that bunch, yeah, I did think that Vele was one of the better ones. It wouldn't even be Strawther, because Strawther would be like Sutton or Mims. Peyton Watson, perhaps. Yeah, I think he's one of the better ones they have for that role, but I don't think much of that group in general. And that's the case here with Vele. But here's the thing with Vele. I mean, the Broncos could have looked at this and said, yeah, we got one too many receivers. We don't need all of these guys. And who are you going to get? I mentioned this earlier. Who are you going to actually get something for? I mean, if you're surprised, Brett, that the Broncos got a 4th-round pick and a 7th-round pick for Vele, do you think they would get anything for Troy Franklin? So it could be that as well. It's never one thing, but I think what you've seen from Pat Bryant is part of it. And I think it could be, too, that Vele was the only one with any kind of market value. And also the bigger picture is that you lose one of these guys in the Broncos wide receiving core, and I don't know that you would lose a lot of sleep over it. And that's a compliment, and it's also I think that's what we call a backhanded compliment. Because I don't think the collective is that great, but I do think that Vele is one of the better ones in that group. I didn't think, to your other point, I didn't think they were going to cut Vele. I thought him not being included this weekend in the preseason game against Arizona was more of a, I know what I have in him. He has a role with this team. I don't need to throw him out there. Apparently it wasn't. Brett says, I know, Ryan, you only like receivers that leave the scene of an accident. I get it. Yep. Got that one in there. Set you up. Yeah, Adam Schefter, by the way, to that point, and I know what you're thinking, which Chiefs wide receiver is Ryan about to talk about? Because so many of them would fit that description. So Adam Schefter says it wasn't 10-plus games that the NFL was trying to suspend Rashee Rice for. It was 8. which would still fit everything else. It was Tom Pelissero who reported that the NFL was trying to suspend Rashee Rice for 10 or more games. And the NFLPA said there's no precedent for this. You can't just decide to suspend him for 10 or more games when you have nothing in your history to say this is the suspension that what Rashee Rice did warrants. But even if it's 8, everything else still applies. The NFLPA could still fight the idea that this would be an unprecedented suspension that was levied against Rashee Rice and fight back against that. But now we have a little bit clearer of a meeting in the middle, right? I mean, could it be like 6 now? Could it be maybe like 5? Although that's an odd number, and it sounds weird to say he'd be suspended for 5 games. We like the even numbers. I don't know where the NFLPA is going with this. If they're going to say, well, really, precedence has been set would be you suspend him for 2 games. But 10 plus, when I heard it, sounded like really high. It has nothing to do with whether he deserves that or not. I'm just saying that is a long suspension. And I don't know many suspensions that have been as long as that. But if it's 8, now maybe the middle ground that these two parties will agree to before the season begins, before that hearing that has been scheduled for the end of September. Maybe it makes it so they can come to a decision sooner. If one's saying 2 games and the other's saying 10 plus, both sides got to go a long way to meet in the middle. So Adam Schefter, again, reporting 8 games was what the NFL was trying to do, and the NFLPA said you can't do that. Again, it's the NFLPA's job. They're not defending what Rashee Rice did. They're just defending the rules that are in place according to the CBA. One more text from Brett. It was Sean Payton this weekend not playing Devon Vele. It was we were going to trade him, so we better not get him injured. That's apparently what it was. I think those are dots worth connecting. But look, what does this amount to? It's housekeeping. It's housekeeping. The Broncos are getting ready to cut down to their 53. What you do right before you do that is you send out trade feelers and you say, hey, you want any of these guys? And if teams say no, then those are the guys that end up cut a week from yesterday. Tuesday is when the final 53 has to be out. But this is housekeeping. You try to make... Maybe the Broncos have another move of this level of significance. Get another late round pick for one of the running backs. Something. This is just the first thing you do before you lose these guys for nothing by cutting them. But clearly, Devon Vele's spot on this roster was not what many, including I, perceived it to be. But it's one of the pitfalls of this interchangeable, egoless, deep wide receiver room is that could be any one of them, except probably Courtland Sutton. Broncos and Saints coming up Saturday, final preseason game. We also got college football this weekend, a little appetizer. Got a guest tomorrow going to talk about Farmageddon between Iowa State and Kansas State. A couple of Big 12 teams. A couple of Big 12 teams that people like. People like Kansas State and Iowa State. So I have a guest on to preview that and the upcoming season in the Big 12. And who knows, maybe the Avs will pick up yet another player, as they just tend to do every once in a while. There's also this little bit of breaking news, not of local interest, but definitely will be of national interest. Caitlin Clark is now more injured than she was before. It's coming from ESPN. Caitlin Clark suffering a bone bruise on her left ankle during a workout this month. So she had already been rehabbing the groin injury she sustained. And somewhere along the way, she also hurt her ankle, and now she's been rehabbing both, trying to make her way back to the lineup. And in the last couple of days, the most recent star turned, and that's Sophie Cunningham. She was lost for the season. So we'll see. No word yet on when Caitlin Clark will be back, but it further emphasizes how that league, I don't think, took full advantage of what they had last year. Right? They got caught up in a lot of pettiness, got caught up on a lot of things that didn't further the brand, that didn't make it more popular, that detracted from it, if anything else. And I'm sure some people within the league were thinking, well, it's okay because we got Caitlin Clark for the next number of years. We'll work through these growing pains, the spotlight being on us, more people showing up to our games, all this, the infighting that was going on with the players. We'll grow out of that kind of stuff, and we'll have Caitlin Clark for years to come. And then here's year 2, and she's missed more games than she's played. And now your biggest box office draw, and really as a team now with how some of Caitlin Clark's teammates have become stars in their own right, not to the level of Caitlin, but to some level. Now Indiana's not going to be a real factor, and I think the best thing for the league would be for the Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark to make a very deep playoff run, and it doesn't look likely. Just you got to be ready for the moment. You don't know when that moment's going to come along, but you got to be ready for it. And the WNBA wasn't, and now this year there are some good, like, attendance has been good. Like, there have been some things that came out of that first year with Caitlin Clark that has sustained themselves. But I promise you, attendance for Fever games has not been what it was going to be. Television viewership, maybe it's good, but it's not what it could be. And you got to prepare, like, at any time, if you're the WNBA or any league, that you're going to explode and people are going to be interested. You got to believe in what you're doing and say, we got a product that people want. So when people do want that product, take full advantage of it. I don't think the WNBA did, and now this has been just a terrible second season for Caitlin Clark. Terrible. She wasn't even playing that well in between injuries. But she will be back at some point, and she'll be back to her old self, and the WNBA will profit from it and benefit from it. But this year has been rough. And that story pretty much encapsulates it. Days after another star gets hurt in Sophie Cunningham, it's revealed that Caitlin Clark is not just nursing the injury that we thought she was nursing. It's another one. She got hurt while rehabbing another injury. That sucks for Caitlin Clark. Really does. Before I go, I want to tell you, know what else sucks? Not having any energy. Not having that drive that you normally do. If you've been feeling tired, sluggish, or just not like yourself lately, it may not just be that you're aging. It could be low testosterone. Center Gen X and Low T Center have been helping men across the country, especially right here in Colorado Springs, for a long time, over a decade, and the results are real. Men report more energy, better focus, improved performance at work, and stronger relationships. And it all starts with just a simple visit to the clinic. Get your results back after blood tests, 15, 20 minutes tops, and then you'll know. And if you are in need of testosterone therapy, just know you have a variety of treatment options, including at-home treatments shipped directly to your door. Don't wait to feel better. Visit fixmylowt.com and take the first step towards restoring your energy, your confidence, and your life. That's fixmylowt.com, fixmylowt.com. It's been my pleasure to serve you. If 3 hours together was not nearly enough, wasn't for me, but if it wasn't for you, you can catch me tonight, 10 o'clock on with Jessica Mendoza on KKTV 11. I'm sure Devon Vele will come up in the conversation as we talk all things Broncos. Then after that, talk to you tomorrow at 3.